Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Spotlight On. Today, we're going to be doing a spotlight with Ryan. And how do you pronounce your last name exactly?
Mazurkivich.
Mazurkivich. I grew up in Northwest Indiana with a lot of different nationalities. So Ryan has been around for a while. So we're, here on Spotlight, we just ask questions and get to know people because that's how we grow the community. And we always add a fun, fast technique that will demonstrate or go through so people can add to their tool bag if they don't. And Ryan was recently on a TEDx talk where was it filmed?
It was in Hartford, Connecticut.
In Hartford, Connecticut. That's gotten quite a few views, and that's a good thing. So we can ask him about that and how it's changed his business and how he wants to leverage that. So anyway, welcome, Mr. Ryan. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Well, thanks for having me on.
Good. So we always start this because the field is what the field is. Most people come in through it backwards. We didn't decide to do this in high school. Most people, other than Dan Candell and a few others. So how did you get into this? What brought you into it?
What brought me into this was a YouTube video of all things. My background was in engineering. I was mostly doing fuel oil engineering. The company I worked for, though, they had a nuclear division. They happened to be short a couple people. So they sent me down to a nuclear plant to go troubleshoot an issue. And from getting off the plane, within the next 2 hours of driving, there I was with a suit on, with monitors on. I was standing about 20 feet from the head of the nuclear reactor. It was the absolute coolest experience of my life, and I never wanted to do it again after that. So after being that amped up, when I got back to the hotel, I couldn't really, once the adrenaline's going like that, you can't just fall asleep. So I happened to be on YouTube, thumbing through videos, and I happened to find a video about how pain is subjective, and they had somebody hypnotized on stage. And although it's kind of frowned upon, they did the old thing where the person's hand went numb. They put the sterilized needle through the back.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, at the time, I did not like needles. So I quickly just shut down YouTube, brought up Google, what's the magic words? How do I do that? And then the more I kept reading that it was just suggestion, I kept getting aggravated at it, because I was like, because nobody's going to suggest that happens to me because I don't like needles. Long story short, I got so aggravated at Google. In order to get revenge at Google, by the time I came back to Connecticut, I already started my certification course. So out of retaliation to Google is really how it started.
Well, a lot of the best changes in the world started by revenge.
Yeah.
Kingdoms fall. That's pretty cool. Yeah, the needle thing, I've saw Jerry Kine used to do it. I've done it a lot. What we used to do in one public demo, I tell people now, and they just go like that, which is we'd have people up there. It was a stop smoking thing, and we get volunteers up and put them in deep trance after we made sure they were a good subject. Anyway, we tell someone, in a moment, I'm going to pass underneath your nose a beautiful bouquet of roses. I want you to take a nice deep breath and just enjoy this bouquet of roses. And we take a cup with ammonia.
Oh, geez.
And put it under, and people go like that. And I tell that to people, and a lot of people don't believe it would work. I'm like, I don't know. I've probably done it 50 times. Of course, now there'd probably be some ethical constraints and things.
Yeah.
But it was fat. And out of the 50 times I did it, maybe 2 people kind of came out of it, but nobody freaked out. So yeah, that's the power of this. And, cool. I haven't thought of the needle thing in years. So you took your training, and what did you do right after you took your training?
Oh, after I took my training, the very first thing I did was in my hometown. I booked a self-hypnosis class, how to do self-hypnosis. And I had 12 people show up, and it was, I just, out of pure guts, I never done any public speaking before that. I said, you know what, I'm just going to do this. So that was my first introduction to the community. as a hypnotist, and then right away went and found an office space and started seeing clients. I started doing groups a lot, to get more people to come in to hear about things. And then slowly over the years, doing a little bit less groups, doing a little bit more the traditional one-on-one. And then I started branching out into another passion of mine, which was sports, which I like working with sports teams a lot.
Oh, okay. All right. And what do you like to do with the athlete? Athletes are always great subjects. I always said that.
Yes,
Athletes
absolutely.
Great subjects. Athletes and high-performance military are my two favorite people to hypnotize.
Yeah, absolutely. What was interesting is when I was a baseball player in high school, played in college, and there's a few moments in time that came back to me once I learned about hypnosis for sports. Was that there's a moment where we're at a game and there's a pretty big crowd there, around 1,000 people. And after the game, driving home with my mom, she says, "What was it like to hear everybody?" And I realized, you know what? I was so intensely focused that I did not hear a thing. I heard my coach, the ball hit the bat, and that was it. I have no recollection of what that crowd was like during the game. And I was like, wow, that's pretty impactful. And then the other thing is that my mom always put on me that to have the right attitude going in. There was so many people that I saw that had much more talent than me that I progressed past. And a lot of that was because of the mental makeup that I had, the ability to let go of mistakes, to always be confident in situations, to be able to clear any negative thoughts that I had. I remember there was a tournament that we were playing in against a team from Trumbull, Connecticut. And the pitcher that we didn't want to face, we were absolutely terrified of this guy. And we were like begging, like, give the other guy. The other guy's name was Craig. Like, let us face Craig and not this other guy, because this guy's going to kill us. So long story short, I happened to be turning on the TV years later, and the guy that we wanted to face, because we thought we had a better chance at, turned out to have a 12-year major league career. And a lot of what I saw was that the people that were able to have better control of their emotions, let go of mistakes, not hold on to stuff, and to focus better, even if they didn't have the talent level at that younger age, they were able to progress past the people that were miles away more talented naturally. So, I wish I knew that when I was that age. How far could I have gone if I had some more mental training? So that's kind of like what I want to give back to the high school and the college kids now.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I forget the coach that I've heard say it. One was, what's his name? The coach for the Raiders. His name just fell out. I'm a lifelong Raider fan, football. Then he was the commentator for Madden said one time, sometimes talent will doom you.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, what do you mean? He goes, some of the most talented people never hit their potential because they don't, when they get to the level. And I remember a guy like that got a scholarship to college, Division 1A football and he came back to talk to a high school. I was doing other stuff at the time, but he gave this really cool talk about studying and everything else, which you'd expect. But he goes, I was the state 100-yard dash champ twice in the state of Indiana. He was invited to the Olympic tryout, all that, gets a full scholarship to Notre Dame. And he goes, I stepped on that field and there were linemen almost as fast as me. And that's when I realized, I might have maxed out my talent. And so he graduated law school in 5 years from Notre Dame. But it was that idea of what you just said. And so that's pretty cool. Since you're into sports and that, tell us a couple good examples of working with an athlete without disclosing names, of course, but some cool stories. Yeah,
I was dealing with a team in an adult baseball league, and a pitcher that I'd seen in the league for many years, I'd come up to and I said, hey, let me just show you a couple quick little things. And he's well above the league average as far as the age range goes. But now, after showing him just a couple techniques, he's the best pitcher on the team. He's responsible for, last I checked, for most of their wins. And he's kind of having this renaissance where he's now almost double the age of some of the people that are coming into the league. So you could always learn new stuff. You could always apply new stuff. But to really see somebody, excel when they really, thought they were kind of at, the back nine of their career, so to speak, to borrow a golf term there.
Okay, cool. All right. And okay, you're into sports. What else are some of your passions in studying the hypnosis and the NLP, any of the change modalities?
I think fears are absolutely fascinating. If I could work with fears every day, I think that would be fantastic. They're so interesting to me for a number of reasons. For the background of how the fear started originally, even to how fast you're able to let go of that. People think that, I don't know if it's through the publications or whatever, that it takes X amount of time to get over fear, but we know it's very simple to get over one just as quickly as you acquired one.
Oh, cool. What is your, let's talk about TEDx.
Yeah.
The TEDx talk. When was that?
That was December 2018.
So rather recent.
Yeah, rather recent. It was pretty cool. It was at Infinity Hall in Hartford, and I was kind of a hack guitar player growing up, and I always say that I never had the musical chops to get on that stage, but I found another way. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And so I'll make sure I get the link and I'll put it in so people can watch your TEDx talk.
Yeah.
And what was your prep going into the TED? Because I've known a lot of people that's done TEDx talks, Jason Linett, Richard Nongard, Scott Sandlin. I mean, the list goes on.
Yeah.
So what was your prep to get up to do the TEDx talk?
It's funny. It's actually very similar kind of in retaliation to how I became a hypnotist. I had a client that came to me that wanted to had the confidence to go out and start her own business. And she listed all her goals for me, from I want to have a website, I want to have a book, I want to do this. She got down to saying, I want to do a TEDx talk, but I can't do that. And she started to go on. And that's when I paused. I said, wait a minute, why can't you do that? She goes, well, I'm not on TV. I'm not famous. I don't have a book. I'm like, you don't have to be. You just apply. It's based on the person's thought and merit rather than their name value. She goes, no, it's not. And I said, sure it is. Watch. So just to show her how simple it was, I found the closest TEDx near me, Hartford, and I applied and I got it. Now, I didn't have the intention of doing the talk, but what I did was I, took some linguistics, and so I said, hey, here's my my 3 most popular talks. Which one best fits your theme? So we have in that presupposition that I'm going to do the TEDx talk, and the choice that they have is which topic do they want me to talk about.
Oh, cool. And what did you talk about?
My talk was called What to Do When Life is Spinning Out of Control, which is based around the NLP backwards spin technique. It's something that I used myself. I got out of Melissa Tier's anti-anxiety toolkit book that she has out. It's a fantastic book with tons of really fast, simple techniques for calming down anxiety. I happened to use it for myself one day. It was getting late in the day. My son wanted to go down to the beach to play, and I really just wanted to pack it in and go home. And it was just like, I knew that if I went home, I was going to feel like crap, So I did this technique, and all of a sudden I had this new vibrant energy, like, yeah, let's do this. We got about 90 minutes before the sun goes down. So let's go get some sand in our shoes. Let's go climb on some rocks. Let's throw some shells into the water. And I couldn't believe with how quickly it worked and how effectively. I just read it in the book maybe a couple of weeks prior. I hadn't put it to use yet. And then a friend of mine called me up. Her daughter was 5 at the time. It was that struggle that a mom has of bring the kid to school. Kid doesn't want to get out of the car, doesn't want to go to school. So I told her, I said, here, why don't you just try this? Ask her where she feels that feeling inside her. And I walked her through the entire technique. And all of a sudden, she gets out, she goes to school, and then every day up until she was comfortable going to school, they would do this technique. And I started using it with clients. I started getting great results. And it's one of those things that is simple to remember and works very quickly. And I think that combination of something that works quickly that you can remember, you're more likely to follow through with something. Where the yogas, the meditations are fantastic. They work great. Not everybody has a yoga mat or a quiet room where they can, meditate for a while. So I always try and teach my clients something that's quick, that's easy, that you can do anywhere, anytime. And that's what I love so much about that technique. And that's why when given the opportunity for the TED Talk, when they asked me which of the three that I would like to do, I was like, I feel that this one has the biggest crossover because you can use it if you're feeling stressed, angry, sad, if you're feeling blue, depressed, afraid, whatever. For the greater good to reach more people, I thought that was the technique that I can show that really would be able to be the one that can really touch as many people as possible.
Cool. Yeah, because you only have a few minutes, right? 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's 18 minutes is the maximum. For TEDx Hartford, they capped it at 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then just from never being on that stage before, I got a little bit faster in my pacing. So I helped out on the time of the show, and I came in at just around 10. So
okay, yeah.
I always tell people it was like the most frightening roller coaster you could ever go on. You'll never have more fun being completely scared out of your mind than being in front of a sold out, building, live streaming over the internet with relatives watching from around the country.
Right. And how many speakers were there that day?
There was 8 of them. So I went on third. So I was able to get it out of the way and just somewhat relax and enjoy the rest of the show. I think my nerves finally started to calm down probably around like 1:15 midnight, and the show is at 7. So, but it was fantastic. It was fun. And one of the things that I wanted to do, which I believe I got from Jason Linett, was we're a hypnotist. We can be a speaker in a different way. We can give them something that no other speaker can give. We can give them an actual experience, which is why when I did my TED Talk, I wanted to make sure that I had some technique that people can actually do. So when you listen to TED Talks, it's all about listening to funny stories and hearing interesting ideas. Not many of them can walk you through an experience. And I thought that was something that me as a hypnotist and all of us as hypnotists have that ability to do.
Right. Oh, cool. Yeah. Most of the people watching this are probably NELPers and that. Yeah.
That's why I wanted to throw that out there for them. Yep.
Yeah. And we forget we have a skill set. 98% of the world has no clue what it is we do.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Cool. So what's something outside of hypnosis and NLP that you're passionate about?
I'm really a big fan of vegetable gardening. It's something that I do just to kind of get away from everything. And fish tanks. I love saltwater fish tanks. Those are probably A1 and A2 as far as cool. hobbies that I have. Yeah. So
cool.
And I'd always loved the ocean. Being in Connecticut, we have Long Island Sound. We don't have the greatest sea life out here. In the Sound, we have the Bud Light bottle, the tire, the license plate, and a couple sand tiger sharks and some bluefish. That's about it.
And an occasional mobster might wash by.
Yeah. Well, they don't usually wash by with the concrete, so they usually sink. But yeah, I mean, so those are the. I think, the very first time I really had true wonder in life was when I went on a cruise and we were in St. Thomas. We were going to go snorkeling. I jumped off the boat. I was the first one off the boat. I put on the goggles and I looked underwater and all I saw was fish in every direction. It was the most amazing moment of my life. And I just shot right back up and I started freaking out. I'm like, guys, there's fish down here. There's fish down here. And everyone on the boat's like, yeah, that's why we came out here. But I'm like, no, you don't get it. From where I'm at, like, this is not what we see, you know? So that was how I got into fish tanks. Was I wanted to have a slice of that in my living room, to where like I can go back to that moment where it was just, you know, amazement for the first time.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I always say, you know, like when I'm doing trainers training or teaching people, I always say you need some hobbies and things that have nothing to do, because it's easy to get so into hypnosis and NLP and change work. And my big thing now is epigenetics and all that, that you can shut down the rest of the world. But what makes people interesting as speakers, as trainers, is you could talk about your fish tank. I could talk about the horses, or being on, my big thing is theater. It used to be martial arts, but everything hurts now in my life. So I still do it, but I haven't competed in 12 years. But yeah, that's what makes a, because when you look at the masters in our field, you know, Orman McGill, which he was gone when you really got in, I think, but he was a master magician. You know, Bandler is a hell of a musician. You know, Tony Robbins flies helicopters and high performance aircraft. I mean, everybody had, to me, that makes stuff interesting when you get up and talk about it. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it's funny that you mentioned Orman McGill and magicians. There's seems to be a great crossover with NLP, hypnosis, and people that do magic.
Yes.
I wouldn't call myself a magician. I'll say I do a magic trick. That's about it.
My big thing is when I do one, it's to shut up and not say, this is how it works. Let me show you. It's real easy. You know, that's my friend goes. Well, and you know, I always think when my friends that do stage hypnosis, of course, that field's really grown in the 30, 40 years I've been around. But in the old days, as Orman McGill says, you give me a magician, I can teach him stage hypnosis and he'll be great. You can give me a great hypnotist, he may suck at stage hypnosis because he doesn't understand the timing, the pacing, you know. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, that kind of makes sense, you know. Of course, I think you could train those things in people, but if you're already used to the showmanship,
yes,
you know, it's just like somebody was asking me, well, what, you know, when Tony Robbins hit the world, he hit the world big and running fast. I said, well, yeah. I said, well, if you look at, like, you know, he hung around with Jim Rohn, right? Then he hung around with Warner Earhart. But everyone forgets he hung around with all those movie stars because he grew up in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So his whole thing was how to perform, how to do this. And, you know, it's how to do a show.
Yeah.
Cool. Speaking of a show, you're going to show us the spin technique?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
So,
well, real quick, before we do the spin technique, so you're studying fears and that, and this, in the big perfect world, where would you like to be, a typical question, in a few years in your career?
Boy, you know, I think I would like to have a practice that I travel a little bit for sports teams. Get to see some different places throughout the country, throughout the world, and then really just help people overcome fears that they have, you know, whether that's fears that are holding them back in their personal life, professional life. I think that's really where I'd like to be at.
Cool.
You know, I do enjoy working with clients for quitting smoking as well. I lost my mom. She was a smoker. I lost her to cancer. So I've been looking to find ways to take part in, you know, the local cancer centers around here to offer some services there as well.
Cool. All right. All right. Now tell us about the technique you're going to do, do it however you would do it.
All right, cool. So this was the backward spin technique that I got from Melissa Tier's book, Anti-Anxiety Toolkit. Everybody should go out there, pick it up. I get nothing for saying that. It's just one of the best books I saw out there. So really, anytime we have an emotion, whether it's anger, stress, fear, sadness, whatever, we feel that as a physical sensation somewhere inside the body. And I think it was Bandler, or at least Bandler was credited, that we feel those things as though they're circulating, as though they're spinning throughout us. And most of the time when people focus in on that, they can sense that it's going in a direction, whether it's clockwise, counterclockwise. And the basics of the technique is if you can feel it inside you going one way, what would happen if you were to imagine it going in the other direction? So if you had a feeling of stress, say, in your chest, and you felt that feeling coming towards you in a clockwise direction, the first thing you want to do in the technique is to imagine taking it from inside of you to right out in front of you. So dissociating yourself from that feeling. And then to begin to slow that spin down, then begin to spin it in the opposite direction. And the one little wrinkle that I have is have it spin a little bit faster in that opposite direction. So as you take a deep breath and you bring it in, you feel that shift inside you. So really have that feeling inside you, bring it out to dissociate. And then once it's out there, that's where you can do the change work on that feeling. So where you can get full control, you can slow down the uncomfortable feeling. You can reverse it into something that's better. And then because you still have full control, you can make it go a little bit better in that good direction before you bring it back in. That's the one little wrinkle that I added in there. The wrinkle that Melissa Tears adds that is very helpful as well is that when you bring it back in, also think of kind of a funny kind of thought or memory, to kind of anchor in a little bit of fun there as well. It's one that's just so simple to do. It takes me much longer to explain how to do it than to actually do it. But like I said, once you do it once or twice, it's something that you can do anywhere, anytime. You could do it eyes open, eyes closed. While you're driving, it works good if you happen to be stuck in traffic. I know that. The two things that help me in traffic is this technique and Jimmy Buffett. Those are the two things that help me out the most when I'm stuck in traffic.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. Well, why don't you pretend I'll do it?
Okay, good.
Because I like change work.
Okay.
As my friends say, you're a mess.
Well, what do you mess about? Do you have some stress, some anger? What's going on?
Some frustration.
Some frustration. Great.
Things aren't moving fast enough.
Yeah, I was going to say we can work.
Yeah. And that wasn't a setup.
I know you couldn't have had a better one though. As far as that frustration, if you had to give it on a scale from 1 to 10, where would that number be at?
Like 8, 8.5.
8. Okay. That level 8 of frustration, where do you feel that feeling resonating strongest inside you?
Right there. It's like in and just.
Okay. And it's kind of spinning top to bottom?
Yeah, going like outward.
Okay, great. So focus on that feeling and just imagine you can bring it from just inside your chest to just out in front of it. Great. Okay. And now take that fast rotating frustration and just begin to slow it down a little bit.
All right.
Great. And now that you have it slow down a little bit, start reversing that in the opposite direction. Have it spin in the opposite direction.
Okay.
And then just speed that spin up just a little bit.
All right.
Great. And now take a deep breath and then bring in that new spin. And as you exhale, notice what feels different. Right.
Oh, all right.
And now that number that was at an 8, where's that at now?
About a 1.
Oh, fantastic. Great. Yeah. So it's that simple. It works that fast. Cool.
All right. And how do people get in touch with you, Ryan? If people want to just with you, because I know you do Zoom session or Skype sessions if people want something.
Yeah, great. So for people that would like hypnosis sessions, I'm at Mind Matters Hypnosis. We have 3 offices in Connecticut, as well as the Zoom and Skype sessions. My personal website is ryanmazurkivich.com. So you can watch my TED Talk there. For the people that are listening that know kids in the high school and college baseball, softball fields, I create a podcast for them to learn the mental skills of not only the game, but also of life in general. And that's the Next Level Sports Podcast, available on everywhere that you would normally listen to podcasts.
Oh, cool. All right. right. Well, I'd like to thank you for joining us on
Thanks for having
Spotlight
me.
On. And everyone will see you as we trudge the road to happy destiny. May the sun be in your face and the wind at your back.